What makes a portrait realistic? Accurate values or tones, accurate proportions, accurate textures, and accurate features or details. That's all well and good, but let's say you're somebody who has never drawn or you are just not very practiced in drawing realistically. What do you do? How do you even start? Well, that's what this video is for. Let's get started. Maybe get a cup of coffee first? Proco.com has this feature called values, so we can add an image. Well, let's add the Mona Lisa image. Let's take a look at it. And now you can see how the values translate across the entire image. The lightest values occur mostly in the face and chest. If you're going to do a realistic drawing, you're obviously going to be using more tones. Let's bump that up to 5. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do if you're going to be doing a self-portrait is you need to have a picture of yourself. I did that. I took some pictures of myself. I really went out of my way to make these kind of expressive photos. And are they flattering? Definitely not that one. With my photos, I was really looking for interesting lighting. So I definitely made sure that I had a couple of lights, like one on my right, one on my left, so I could play around with that. I had a dark background because I felt like it suited my light skin complexion and lighter hair. I just wanted to have something that would make my face show up. The third thing that I think you have to consider when you're choosing a photo is make sure that it is high res. So if you have a picture that you think, oh, that would work really well for this project, but it's low res, do yourself a favor, just take another photo. You're better off with high res because you will want to pick out some details in your face. So I picked this one just because I think it's interesting. The drawing that we're going to be doing is black and white, and this photo is color. So I think it makes sense to make it black and white. Now, there are a few different ways that I can go about making my image black and white. I'm going to be using an online tool, Lunapic, because I find it's just super easy to use. First thing I'm going to do is upload the image. And here we are. We've got this picture nice and big. And now I want to change it to black and white. So it's got filter, black and white. One other trick that is useful when you're drawing is that you do not draw right side up. So if you can rotate your image, and I can choose the angle here, I'll do 180. There is a tendency among people who are starting to draw that you immediately start drawing features instead of drawing the broader shapes of tone. And that is really what we've got to do. So sounds maybe a little bit paradoxical, but when you're drawing realistically, you must just deconstruct it. You must simplify. You must abstract. You must start looking at the picture that you're using, your reference, as a set of abstract shapes and tones. I've got it black and white. It's upside down. I'm going to save that. The other thing I want to do is take away details. When you start drawing anything, even if it's realistic, you need to start with no details. But I also want to keep the tones. I don't want to mess with the tones at all. So there's also another feature on here in filters called median. And what this will let me do is blur it out. So I'm just going to bump it right up to 25. It might have been too far. Let's backtrack. So how do I undo? Oh, undo this effect. Let's do that. Better. Okay. Filters, median. Maybe I'll just go to 20. See how that does. Even that's a little far, I think. And maybe I'll just go to 15. That's pretty good. What I like about this is I see all the features, all the big features, and I'm not seeing a whole ton of details. So big features, big shapes, no details. Great. Let's save that. So now I have my reference images. If I start drawing this, how do I know where to start? I'm thinking I just want to have a tool that will make it easier for me to get the features in the right spots, or get all the elements, all the shapes in the right positions. You could print out the reference image and trace it. I'm going to use a grid. I want to lay a grid on top of my image. This is a good time to start thinking about how big do I want to draw this. For this project, make it as big as your head. That's how big this drawing should be. So in other words, it should be life-sized. I'm going to do this digitally. If you're doing it on paper, 9 by 12 is the absolute minimum, but I think it should be a lot bigger. I really think that you should go for something like 12 by 15. Makes more sense to me. Something larger if you can. Because I can choose how big I'm going to make this digital drawing, I will make it 12 by 15. So how do we draw a grid on a digital drawing? Well, again, many different ways. You can do it in Photoshop. I found this online tool that I think does a really good job. What I like about this is, so this is gridmaker.verkle.app. What I like about it is it numbers the columns and rows. We're going to upload our image, and I think we'll start with median. So I've already kind of figured out how big I want this. It wants millimeters. I'm converting 12 inches wide by 15 inches high. Converted to millimeters is 305 by 381. And I'm going to do 10 rows and 8 columns. You can do more, you can do fewer. I just feel like this feels like about right. It'll give me an idea of where all the big shapes are going to go. Color, I'm choosing this kind of pink fuchsia. Line opacity as opaque as possible. Line width, I'm going to go 2 pixels. I'm going to download this image. This is where I'm going to open up Photoshop. File, new. I've already put in 12 inches here, 15 here, resolutions 300, and my color CMYK. Now, first thing I'm going to do, the black and white image. Okay, hit check mark. Now I'm going to drag in the median image, so the blurry one. Okay, hit check mark. So you can see what it's done is it's actually created layer for the black and white image, a layer for the median image. I'm not thrilled with how it's positioning everything. Click on the top one, hit shift, click on this one. Now they're selected together. If I click on the top tool, which is the move tool, it will let me drag them together. I'll just make them fill out this space a little bit more. I positioned my image. I'll hit the check mark. Good. Now I want to drag in the grid. So let's do that. Drag it in. And I'm going to make it fill this space a little bit better. Use the zoom tool. Zoom in on this. Go to select, color range, and I'm going to use this eyedropper right on the pink. Fuzziness, if you go too high, it actually selects too much. You can see the background got light. If you go too low, it selects too little. So we want to have something that's somewhere in the middle. Seems like somewhere around 150 does a good job. Okay, and now you can see it's activated. We're selecting just the pink. Go down to layers, make a new layer, and we'll call it grid. Go to edit and fill. And we're going to fill this with white. So if you don't have white selected, just select that. I mean, gray might work better for you. It depends on what image you have. But for me, because I have a lot of darkness in this image, I'm going to go white. So, okay. All right. So now it has given me a grid. I'm going to deselect. I'll hit Command D. I'm going to zoom out. Command 0. And I'm going to deselect this, or I'm going to hide this. There we go. Now, one thing I want to do is lock the grid so we don't mess with it. Before I lock this, I do want to lock this layer, but before I lock it, let's just change the opacity because we don't need this much. Let's go down to somewhere around 50% will work for me. And now I'm going to lock it. Now, before I do anything else, let's save it. Save. And I think I'm going to name this reference. And we're going to save it again because this will also serve as my drawing. So let's go save as, and I'll call it selfie drawing. And because this is what I will be drawing on, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. Let's get rid of it. And we're going to be drawing on this, the background. All right, this is my drawing, so I'll hit save again. And I want to bring back my reference so I can see it, so I can look at that on my screen as well. So let's do that. All right, so it came in here. I'm just going to pull this off. I want this to be its own. I want this to be on its own. I don't want it to be part of this window. So I just pulled it out. Okay, I'm going to reduce this window a little bit so I can actually see my reference image. Let's say somewhere around there. We're ready to draw. We're going to draw with black and white, but I'm going to start with gray. I clicked on this to make it back to the black and white options. Click on the dark here, and this pops up. And I'm going to pick something on this side. So this is white, this is black. I'm going to pick something somewhere in the middle. So maybe around here. Hit OK. Now it's time to choose a brush. What I'm going to be using is this Conte brush. In Photoshop, you've got some free brushes to choose from. I'm going to choose a Conte. It's got a little bit of a texture. Now, opacity. I'm just going to crank this right up to 100. I'm just going to make this a big brush, and I'm going to brush the entire. You can see I have background selected here. So the grid is on top, I'm on the background layer, and I'm just going to fill it. So that's why I can see the grid, is the grid is on top. Yeah, let's hit save again. It's Command S, and we'll go back to the brush. So if I want to hit the brush, I can click on the brush, or I can hit B. We're ready to draw. So it's time to put in some of these white shapes. So I'm going to flip this. We've got the white underneath. Something to keep in mind, when you've got two colors down here, if I want to flip them, I can click on this, or I can hit X. You can see it does the same thing. And let's just fill in these shapes now. Here we go. And that's a little much. I'm going to turn down the opacity and make it a little bit smaller. So I'm using the square bracket keyboard shortcut to make it smaller. You can also go up here and just physically move this around to make it smaller. Big shapes. We're not worried about accuracy at this point. Nothing's carved in stone. So if I make mistakes here, doesn't matter. Something I haven't really talked about yet, and maybe I'll just mention this while I'm drawing here, is I'm using digital tools here, but you just as easily could do this using traditional means. Okay, you could use a gray paper, just like I'm using gray here as my background. You can do the same. You can use gray paper, and then draw with a white Conte pencil. If you use a white paper, and you're using graphite, lay down a really faint layer of maybe your hardest pencil. So turn your hardest pencil onto its side and just fill in the entire background with gray. And then what you would be doing is with the white, you'd be picking out highlights using an eraser. Don't get too fussy about trying to make this look like anything. I think the tendency is that we immediately want to have a likeness, and we want to see, oh, does it look like, does this actually have a likeness to me? I am not concerned about that in the slightest right now. We're way too early in the drawing stage. So I'll worry about that later. Right now, let's just worry about getting in all the shapes. And I'm the whole time, by the way, I'm using this guide. I really am using this grid as my guide, because all I really care about is getting in the shapes of tone. Now, if you're at a point where maybe you can't see shapes, squint. Make sure you squint. Okay, I'm seeing a lot more gray in here than I did just a minute ago. Got a light spot here that doesn't exist. Let's try to gray that out. I think it's time that we spin this around and see what we've got. Huh, not bad. Okay. And you can see, now that I'm looking at this, squinting, I can definitely see this is too bright over here. I've got too many bright hot spots here. Overall, I'm starting to see something that's feeling pretty decent. Yeah, I can see this coming together. So I hope that makes sense. If you're somebody who's not used to drawing a whole lot, I hope you see some value in this. Yeah. Let's leave it at this. Now, I will also say, I want to go back to the resource, the reference image that I was using at the beginning. So in Photoshop, actually, I'm going to make this black and white. So mode, image mode, grayscale. And it says it's going to discard the information. That's fine. And actually, just to be safe, I'm going to save as, we're going to save this as, so if I zoom in on this, even though this is pretty high res, you can see, we'll look at this part. This could be a bit sharper. Photoshop has a really nice feature here in filter, in sharpen. It's called the unsharp mask. And what this lets me do is kind of go between, it's got this amount to sharpen. And you can see it's doing a lot. So if I go back down here, there's nothing. Go here, it's sharpening a lot. But it also has radius pixels. Let's say if I go up a little bit. So you can play around with these things to see what works. I'll just turn off preview to see the difference. So that's what I started with, and that's where I'm at. That's what I started with, and that's where I'm at. I think that's pretty good. That's actually a good amount of detail, because what it's picking out is definitely some more pores in the skin. It's picking out details, hairs, individual hairs more. Well, I do feel like I'm getting ahead of myself looking at details. I'm not there yet. I still have a lot of work to do in terms of getting all those values accurate. So without further ado, let's go. All right, I think that's a good place to stop. What we have now is a portrait that has accurate values, accurate proportions. We're getting to have some accurate textures, but it's still fuzzy. And we definitely need to work on some specific details. But this is a good basis now. Well, until next time, enjoy your coffee.